I want to address a comment that somebody left on my Anthony Joshua Francis Ngannou post-fight video. The person essentially said, and I'm paraphrasing here, that people made a mistake writing Anthony Joshua off following those losses to Alexander Usyk and those poor performances against Jermaine Franklin and Robert Helenius, and that they're making the same mistake again now, writing Tyson Fury off following his poor performance against Francis Ngannou, particularly in light of how easily AJ dealt with Ngannou. Now, I did respond in the comments to that person, but I want to address it in this video as well, in case anybody else is thinking along the same lines as that individual. So my take on it is this. A lot of people wrote Anthony Joshua off, yes, but I wasn't one of them. I always said in many, many videos that Anthony Joshua just needs to get his confidence back because physically he's well preserved. He's a guy that lives the life. He hasn't abused his body. He hasn't had a ton of tough fights. Anthony Joshua really only took serious punishment against Vladimir Klitschko, which was many, many years ago, and in the first Andy Ruiz fight. Outside of that, he hasn't really been in a bunch of really taxing encounters. So he took a few against Dylan White, but nothing too bad. He took a few in the Alexander Usyk fights, but again, nothing too crazy. So he's well preserved and he lives the Spartan lifestyle of an elite level boxer. And I always said, if he can get his confidence back, and that's a process, right? Of getting them the right fights in order to build the confidence back. But if he can, he's still got some good wins left in him. That's what I've been saying over the past year or so. And it seems as though Anthony Joshua is now starting to get that confidence back. So the people who are writing him off and saying that we should just stick a fork in him because he's done, I wasn't one of them. So I can only speak for myself. Now, with regards to people making the same mistake now writing off Tyson Fury, well, with Tyson Fury, it's a bit different because, at least from my perspective, the issue with him isn't mental, it's physical. It isn't about him lacking confidence and needing to build it back. No, it's about him having a lot of wear and tear. He has had a lot of tough fights, going all the way back to his fight with John McDermott. And not only has he had a lot of tough fights and taken a lot of punishment, I mean, look at the punishment he took in the Wilder fights, but he's also abused his body, taking all sorts of substances outside the ring, ballooning up in weight, and then coming back down in weight. He's doing road work. He's mashing up his knees and his joints and his hips, etc., doing all that stuff. On top of all that, one thing that a lot of people don't think about is the fact that Tyson Fury would often come into training camp horribly overweight, and he's got to get ready for a fight in a relatively short space of time. During these training camps, he's in there with guys, sparring partners, who are in shape, and he starts sparring when he's not fully in shape, and he's massively overweight, and he's getting hit far more than he would be getting hit if he was actually on fight weight. So all of this takes its toll on a fighter physically, and it results in a deteriorating physical state, which is perhaps premature because there's only a year in age difference between Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury. But Fury has a lot more miles on the clock, at least in my estimation. And so I don't think that Fury can really do much if what I'm saying is accurate to address it. Now, I don't think he prepared very well for Ngannou. I think he'll prepare much better for Alexander Usyk, but that doesn't mean he can prepare well enough to actually win the fight. That remains to be seen. And I don't think that we will ever see a peak Tyson Fury anymore. I think he's past his peak. That doesn't mean he's washed up necessarily, but in my view, he will never be as good as he once was. Whereas with Anthony Joshua, I think he might actually have yet to hit his peak. I think he might be a little bit of a late bloomer because, again, he's physically well preserved, he's improving his technique, and now he may be fighting with a renewed level of confidence. Whereas with Tyson Fury, I've spoken about the mental aspect with him in recent videos, but that is in relation to where he's at physically. Because if he can't perform the way that he used to physically, and his body is just not up to the task anymore, then that's going to make him anxious. And I think that's what's going on with him. I think that's what's behind all of the outbursts and the hyper-aggression towards Usyk and confronting Ngannou at Turki Al-Sheikh's house and all this other stuff that's supposed to have happened. I think this is a manifestation of Fury feeling frustrated and anxious about the fact that his body is not performing the way that it used to a few years ago. That's my take on it, and that's why I think it's very different regarding AJ's situation and Fury's situation. I certainly never wrote AJ off. I'm not writing Fury off either, but I find the issues that I think he has to be more serious and more difficult to address than the issues Anthony Joshua had. And don't get it twisted, the mind can be a very, very difficult thing to address, but with AJ, what we're basically talking about is a lack of confidence. That's the main thing that AJ's been battling with over the past few years, particularly since that first Andy Ruiz fight. I think it took him a long time to get over the ghost of that. He might only just be getting over the ghost of that now. And the 2 fights with Alexander Usyk also took their toll on him. And as I've mentioned many times in the past regarding Anthony Joshua's rehabilitation process, if we can call it that, I've compared it to Lennox Lewis when he lost to Oliver McCall back in the days. He had to undergo this process of rebuilding where they gave him gradual, incremental increases in the level of opposition to bring his confidence back up. Because initially, his confidence was very low. It would have been an absolute terrible mistake to throw him straight back in the deep end at that stage. Wiser heads in his team knew that would not be a good idea, and they made sure he came back at a relatively low level and built him up gradually. Same thing with Anthony Joshua. I wasn't too keen on some of the opponents they picked for him, but this Ngannou fight, I think, has done wonders for him. The Otto Wallin fight did wonders for him in terms of confidence building, and the Ngannou fight has done wonders for him in terms of PR as well, which I'll talk about in a separate video. So yeah, different situation with AJ and Fury, but that's my take on it. Give me your take in the comment section below.